The New York Liberty took a regular season win over the Aces 87-76. And when you look at this game, this was a matter of anything you can do, I can do better because it's not like the Aces played a poor game. I think that if this Aces team came out against another team on another day, they would win the game, but the Liberty simply outmatched them. I think that Satu Sably, before she went out with injury, did a good job with defending Asia Wilson, with starting with physicality. I think that every team has to start there because that has proven to impact Asia's performance. She didn't get going until that second half, and she eventually ended the game with 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals. She was 7 of 18 from the floor and 0 for 3 from 3, but that first half was a struggle. We can also say the same thing for Chelsea Gray. She got 11 points and 8 assists by the end of the game, but she didn't score into the second half. And I think that that is a testament to the Liberty's defense. I talked about Satu Sably in that starting lineup. They also have Leonie Phoebish. And when she's lighting it up for 3, it opens up so much for the Liberty offense because she's already a strong presence because of her size. She's usually a matchup nightmare. I think that the Aces are a little bit longer than most teams, but still the Liberty have a slight height advantage. So Leonie Phoebus is lighting it up from 3. Brianna Stewart is lighting it up from 3. Jonquel Jones is lighting it up. Sabrina Ionescu is back. The Liberty didn't even go as deep into their bench as they could have. And that's the scary part because I came into this looking at the games where Rebecca Gardner gave them so much off the bench. She didn't even get minutes in this one. It was Han Shu. She's hitting 12 points. She's 6'11". What can you do with Han Shu? It's really not fair. And she's hitting it from 3. The Liberty have Benijah Laney Hamilton coming off of the bench. It's like they don't fall off in any regard. And when you look at the Aces roster, especially that starting 5, you have to take into account that Stephanie Talbot may or may not give you any offensive production. When you have a Liberty team that's scoring this well, you really can't afford to have someone on the court that is a non-factor offensively. Now, I'm not saying that Stephanie Talbot is a non-factor because she has potential there. She can hit, but there's some moments where she looks indecisive. And I think that's because her primary role is really hustling and getting rebounds for all the other GOATs running around the Aces roster. It's the same to be true with Brianna Turner. That's in moments she looks indecisive because her primary role is not to be a scoring option. So it takes a special kind of something to be able to shoot and hit on demand. I think that Stephanie Talbot has that potential, but it's getting comfortable game after game. And then we're not taking account for the Aces aren't fully healthy. They're missing 2 prolific scorers and legend GOAT status potentially of her own in Kennedy Carter. So that takes away a lot offensively. Jewell Loyd got some looks where she was able to knock down. They need that on a consistent basis. They need that 16-point Jewell Loyd performance night in and night out, honestly. If the Aces can get that, they get Kennedy Carter healthy into the lineup, that's going to help them a lot offensively when they go through lows. But Jackie Young was steadying the ship to start the game. So she's doing well. The Liberty were able to get a good handle on Asia, good handle on Chelsea Gray. So the Aces were missing a lot of their scoring power, but they were still in the game. So think of that from the Aces perspective. Like, they weren't shooting well, but they kept this game competitive for the most part. So I think that's something to be said. But you look at this game and you can't fully judge it for what you will see in the Commissioner's Cup. We believe, based on ESPN estimates, that Kennedy Carter will be back for the Commissioner's Cup game, so that will change things. But another life force that has been coming off of the bench for the Aces has been Cheyenne Parker Tyus. She had 14 points, and her energy literally shifted the momentum. The connection between Chelsea Gray and CPT is something to look out for. We often talk about Chelsea in the starters, but coming off of the bench, she has a really strong chemistry with Cheyenne Parker Tyus. In a game against the Liberty, do you make the switch to put CPT in the starting lineup? I don't think that she wavers much defensively when we're comparing her to Stephanie Talbot. I think that CPT is holding her own defensively. When you need scoring from all five positions, do you make that switch for the starters? And I feel like this happens like it's beginning to become a thing with the Aces where there has to be an adjustment to the starting lineup from somewhere between the start and the end of the regular season. And I think that this Stephanie Talbot to Cheyenne Parker Tyus switch could happen, especially when you're facing teams like the Liberty. And I think that they are one of the standards. This is definitely a team that can play for a championship. So you have to look at that because you're going to see them again. I mean, obviously you're going to see them again for the Commissioner's Cup, but for the real things, when that trophy get a little heavier, you're going to be looking at them for that as well. So it's something to consider. The biggest lead for New York was 19 points. The Aces only led at one point of the game. It was in the start of the game, and it was by 2 points. I want to go back to the 3-point shooting because the Liberty shot 42% from three. 42% from three and 46% from the floor. It's like they couldn't miss anywhere. That's 42% from three compared to the Aces 30%. And it was a struggle. The Aces pulled that percentage up in the second half. It was like 15% at one point in the first half. So the Aces are going to have to get stronger 3-point shooting because in these type of matchups, you can't trade twos for threes. And this is one of those games where people might point to and say, this is where the league is going. They're going to more 3-point shooting. But I don't want it to be lost on anyone that the Liberty were not only getting it done from three, they were getting it done from everywhere. They were hitting everywhere. And the threes just happened to keep falling. I didn't talk about the Liberty's depth in terms of Astier. Man, that rookie was putting it on the Aces. It was back-to-back looks at the rim at one point. She got 6 points back-to-back. Well, more 7 if you have to include the and one. And the Aces really were not ready. I don't know if she was on the scouting report, but at one point of the season, I believe she made a start. So that was a player that wasn't on my radar, at least. I wasn't prepared for the rookie to be giving Jackie Young looks at the rim. I also want to talk about NaLyssa Smith and Breanna Stewart battle. Did y'all peep that game within a game? There was a couple of times where NaLyssa Smith, well, at least once where NaLyssa Smith met Stewie at the rim. Stewie answered back by meeting NaLyssa Smith at the rim. That was an interesting battle. I really love to see the different matchups, the games within a game, the 1v1s, the 2-on-2 matchups within these type of games because it always proves to be interesting. But I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts, Hoops Tribe? How do you feel about this matchup? Do you think that this was any indication for what we're going to see in the Commissioner's Cup Championship, or do you think a healthy Aces team is all the difference that's needed? Let's talk hoops.